I'm excited to do this because I've never done anything like this before in my life, where I am combining two things that I never thought I would really combine, which is a musical performance with an academic talk in my field of philosophy, no less. Which, if you had asked me years ago, should these things be combined, I would have said no. But but we're gonna see how this goes here. As John mentioned, I used to be a philosophy professor here. I do still teach on occasion, so that is still something I still engage in. When I started here back in 2012, now this is my 13th year at the college. And when I'm not doing that or doing the work that goes into being a dean here, I am also a singer-songwriter. It's sort of a hobby of mine. I play guitar and I sing. I play it. I perform at places in Houston whenever I get the chance. So that's something I really like to do too, and that brings me joy. So this is a philosophy talk, right? The topic here falls into the category of the philosophy of music. So I'm going to start by just saying a little bit of that, talking a little bit about that, motivating the kind of puzzle that I want you guys to be thinking about as I'm going to serenade you, and so we're going to start with that. If you could switch the slides, John's going to change slides. Okay, so a couple of caveats before I get into this, okay, that just for y'all to be aware of. In graduate school, I specialized in, when I studied philosophy and got my PhD, I specialized in ancient Greek philosophy and ethics. I really did nothing with philosophy of art or aesthetics or philosophy of music. So this is like a little subfield in philosophy that I've only very recently read the literature in and gotten into. And what I mainly want to accomplish with that part of this event today is really just to convince you guys. If I'm trying to convince you of anything, it's just that there's something interesting and puzzling to think about here. I'm not necessarily going to try to defend any kind of position or argue for one view over another. I'm not really committed to any of the views that I'm going to go through with you here. But I really just want to give you a sense of like what philosophers are up to when they're thinking about this stuff. And give you a sense of what I consider to be the kind of cool and interesting nature of the puzzle that we're going to get into. Okay. One thing that's often said in philosophy is that for any X, there is a philosophy of X. And this is often true. If you looked in like a course catalog of any philosophy department, you'd find things like philosophy of mind, philosophy of language, philosophy of art, right? Philosophy of history, right? Philosophy of chemistry. I mean, you can have a philosophy of anything. And that is because philosophy fundamentally is about asking foundational questions about things. And those questions, whatever the X is, are usually always the same. Like, what is the thing? How can we know about it? And what separates the good from the bad? Like, that's kind of generally what's going on. So in music, in the philosophy of music, those are kind of the main topics that philosophers think and write about, right? So that fancy word of like conceptual, what is music, how do we define it, what separates music from non-music. Ontological, that's a fancy word for like what exists, right? So songs exist, right? But like how do they exist? They don't exist in the same way that like a chair does. You can point to and touch a chair, you can't really do that with a song, right? So that's the kind of things that philosophers puzzle about. And then there's this thing about music and emotions, how music can express emotions that I'm going to talk about today that is a topic within that subfield. So here's what motivates this topic and makes it something that philosophers have thought about and have written about. Okay, so when I say something like I'm sad, right, or I'm happy, there's a very straightforward sense that we all understand in terms of like what that means, right? When I say I'm happy, what I mean is I feel happy, right? And when I say I'm sad, what I mean is I feel sad, right? That's because like this is another fancy philosopher's term, I am a psychological agent, right? I have agency, I have a central nervous system, right, too, whereby I can feel all sorts of things. And it's things like that that primarily are the main expressors of emotions, right? But when we talk about, when we think about music, we often talk about it as if it's something that expresses emotion, right? We talk about a song being happy or sad, right? Very familiar thing, right? Okay. But of course, a song or any piece of music is not a psychological agent. A song can't feel anything, right? So when I say I'm happy, it's right, we know what that means. It means I feel happy. But when we say the song is happy, it's not so obvious what that means, right? It doesn't just straightforwardly mean, well, the song feels happy, because that doesn't really make any sense, right? And so this is what philosophers like to do. They like to find things in normal, everyday life that might seem mundane and that everybody takes for granted, and then they confuse the hell out of you about it and make you think that, like, what you thought you knew, you're right, you knew nothing about, and like you're really just completely ignorant about everything, right? So I'm going to take us through that puzzle by doing two things. I'm gonna play some songs, right, and hope that goes well. And I'm gonna just take you through in a very kind of basic way some of the main positions about this, some of the theories that are out there in the philosophical literature about how music expresses emotions. Right? All right. Sound good? Anybody have a question so far? All right, can we do the next slide? All right, so I'm about to play a song, but I want you to keep these three things in mind here as you're listening to the song and as we go through the rest of the stuff here, okay? So when we talk about music expressing emotions, there's three different things here that are worth distinguishing and like keeping separate in your mind, right? So there's the music, there's the emotions expressed like innately by the music, right? When you hear like a major chord, for example, we'll go through this, tends to sound like a happy sound. Hear a minor chord, tends to sound like a sad sound, right? Then there's the emotions expressed through the music by the performer, right? So me, the performer, I might have some emotions that I'm trying to express with the music, right? And then there's the emotions produced in the listener, and you hearing the music, right? The music might arouse certain feelings or emotions in you. And all I'm telling you right now is like, keep these things separate in your mind. They're three different things, okay? All right. Let's do this. All right, now I'm going to be loud. All right, so I write a lot about, well, recently I've written a lot about love and relationships and being a parent. So I have two daughters. They're and 9 now. I can't get that right. It's not a good thing to not be certain about. I wrote this song for my younger daughter. Her name's Helena, and I wrote this song when she was about 2.5 years old. It's called Flame, and I'll say more about it after I play it, and hope you like it. 1:30 as I settle in for the day. Then I got the call, she said today is gonna be the day. I took a deep breath, rushed home trying to beat the time. Then I picked up your mom and we flew down 59. There was some waiting, some worrying, some speculating, patience wearing thin. And then finally they brought me in. There was some concern until a great big well I did discern. And that's just like you, so coming with a bang. We took you home and home became complete. Your sister held you and you smiled so sweet. With arms stretched out and hearts so full, we try to keep up with the power that is you. And you march to your own beat as you dazzle everyone you meet. With your fire, hair and great big laugh, you charge, you fight, you flame, and the world will never be the same. Yeah, the world's gonna know your name. fast and I try to keep up with the pace. I start to see your mom in your sweet face. You're walking, talking, jumping off of chairs. You're making mama anxious as you're hanging from the stairs. You think of all the things in life that you could do, and I wonder if this stifling world could ever live up to you. I know no matter what, you'll see it through, that's what you do. And it's just like you. You're coming with a bang, wake me up out of my sleep. Rest your tired head on me. No matter where you go, this is your home, and you'll never be alone. And you march to your own beat as you dazzle everyone you meet. At your fire, hair, and great big laugh, you charge, you fight, you flame, and the world will never be the same. Yeah, the world's gonna know your name. Oh, the world's gonna know your name. Yeah, the world's gonna know your name. And you march to your own beat as you dazzle everyone you meet. With your fire, hair, and great big laugh, you charge, you fight, you flame, and the world will never be the same. Yeah, the world's gonna know your name. Oh, the world's gonna know your name. Yeah, the world's gonna know your name. Oh, the world's gonna know your name. Thank you. This is the brightest room I've ever played in my life. I can't hide behind anything here. Yeah, so going back to this thing here, right? So I just want to point out, right? I just want to note a few things about this, right? That those things are different, and they can come apart too, right? So there's lots of emotions that I'm expressing through the song there. I don't know how much you paid attention to the beginning of the lyrics there, but it was like based on a true story. When she was born, it was in like an emergency C-section, and like the umbilical cord was like wrapped around her neck, and like every time there was a contraction, like something bad happened, because like I could tell by the look on the doctor's face, and they made me wait in a separate room while the birth was happening. And then when they finally did bring me in there and said it was okay to go, I walk into the operating room, and like I don't see the baby anywhere, and like nobody's talking to me, and like I'm just standing there like, what's going on? And then finally I see like a baby come out of nowhere, right? And like she was just blue and unresponsive, and then they put her on a ventilator. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like no one told me this was going to happen. And then it was very, very scary. And then like they got her on that thing, and then she started breathing and like crying really loudly. And then I started crying profusely. So it was there's all of that like I'm channeling through the song. And then like, the emotions expressed by the music itself. Major chords like tend to sound jumpy, and major chords played in like a quick way tend to sound like happy, right? I mean, this sounds happy, right? No one would hear that and think depressed, right? No one would think that, right? But if I played that in like slowly in like a minor key instead, if I went, that sounds like kind of sinister, or like something's not right, like something went awry, right? And then, like, you know, I'm sure the song like made you like, I mean, I hope it made you feel something. I hope nobody sat there and was like, I feel nothing from this. This is terrible. Right? But these things can come apart, right? One time I played that song somewhere, and someone came up to me like crying afterwards and like saying that it reminded them of their kid who had like passed away, and like I was like, oh my God, right? Very emotional moment, right? So, you know, there's all kinds of ways in which those things can separate and come apart. Right? So that's one lesson there before I get to the next slide. All right, I'm going to play another song before I get to the other part of this. And I can't, since this is being recorded, I have to play the song that I wrote for my other daughter. Otherwise, I will hear about that. Although I probably shouldn't have said that since it is being recorded. Oh, well. So my older daughter, Sophia, I wrote this song when she was like an infant. And you know, I wrote that first song when my younger daughter was like 2.5. So she was like this raging 2.5-year-old who just was like hanging from everywhere and like jumping all over the place and like super active and breaking things a lot. And it was a lot of fun. But when I wrote this other song for my firstborn, when she was an infant, right, it was just a different time in parenting, right? The main thing you're thinking about, what I was thinking about then was like, you just want the infant to be breathing, right? Like fed and breathing and like occasionally sleeping, but like the breathing's really important, right? And so like there's a piece of that like in this song. And this song is very like, oh my God, like there's a baby in my hands. This is crazy, right? Whereas the other song was just a little bit different. So this one is called Wide-Eyed. I called it that because my firstborn daughter had these great big eyes when she was first born. Life in my hands, through the waters and out to the earthly lands, I'll be there for you. Laugh, love, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Wide-eyed, I think, oh my treasure, oh, I'll be there for you. Take comfort here. Welcome to the world, your home is here. What would you like to see? I'll show you everything. Time's on our side. We'll walk then fly. Laugh, love, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Wide-eyed, oh my. So new, so bright. Take it in, reach out and hold on tight. I'll be there for you. Take care, stay true and see it through. Life will test you, but baby, life is beautiful. Reach out, take a chance, give it your everything. I'll be on your side. Laugh, love, take it all in stride. What would you like to see? I'll show you everything. Time's on our side. We'll walk, then fly. Laugh, love, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Wide-eyed, oh my. Smile for me one more time and take the world with your mind.
you. Laugh, love, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Breathe in, breathe out, in. Thank you. After I wrote the first song I played, which came after the second song, older daughter got upset after a certain point because a lot of people liked that first song, and it got a lot of good feedback. And there came a point where she just didn't like that, and and demanded a new song. So, all right. So, well, I hope you all like those songs and that they evoked some emotions in you. So, with that said, I'm going to get to the next slide here. All right, so here are some theories I'm going to talk briefly about how philosophers have thought about this question of how music expresses emotions. All right, these are not like the only views out there, but there are some very common ones that exist in the literature. All right, so what this theory tries to do is explain, with that three-part distinction I mentioned before, right? There's the emotions expressed by the music, there's the emotions expressed by the performer through the music, right? And then the emotions aroused in the listener. So what the expression theory says is like, we should explain how music expresses emotion in terms of how the performer is expressing emotions through the music, right? So the basic idea here is that pieces of music are expressive of emotions by just bringing out the emotions of the performer, okay? Which, as a vocal performer myself, kind of resonates a lot because whenever I'm playing music, I usually am feeling a lot of emotions, right? But some difficulties that are pointed out about this view. One is that, I know I'm here singing and playing guitar, singing I want to emphasize at the same time, but think about just purely instrumental music. In fact, like purely instrumental music is often the focus in the literature here, okay? So one thing that can very easily be the case is that a performer or a composer, right, might not be feeling anything when they're performing a song, right? I mean, for all you know, I'm just going through the motions right now, right? I don't feel a thing, and like this is just all an act, right? That's not the case, I promise you. But like it could be that a performer playing music is not really. They might not even be just going through the motions, but they might not be really trying to express anything. And yet, right, the music itself still seems to be expressive of something. All right? So that's one issue with this view. Another issue with this view is that as a creator of music, right, you can make mistakes, right? That is, right, you could be trying to write a song that has a certain emotional valence, right, or cadence or something, but you might end up producing something that kind of misses the mark, right? You could be trying to write a happy song, but it just doesn't come across that way, all right? So there's a mismatch there between the emotions that the performer or creator is expressing and what the music actually ends up doing, right? And when those two don't match up, it ends up being a counterexample to this kind of theory, okay? So that's one theory. Let me change the slide there. All right, so here's another theory known as arousalism, or the arousal theory. And actually, I find when I just talk to random people who don't really know anything about philosophy, and try to get them thinking about this problem, This often is like the go-to that people say, I find, right? This is often like the go-to theory. And the basic idea here is that music expresses emotions precisely by producing those emotions in the listener, okay? So what it is for a song to be a sad song is for it to make you, the listener, feel sad, right? Or for you to, for what it is for a song to be a happy song is for it to make you, the listener, feel happy, all right? So again, like going back to those three things I told you to keep separate in your mind, right? What this theory does is it explains emotional expression in music exactly in terms of the emotions aroused in the listener, okay? And like, there's plenty that this view has going for it, right? I mean, I think it's pretty intuitive. I mean, how many of you, like when I was playing that first song, I don't know what I'm gonna get in response to this actually, but like when I was playing that first song, right? It sounded like a happy song. How many of you felt like in a good mood as I was playing that song? Yeah. Well, good, right? So like, this is what it's supposed to do, right? So like, there's like an obvious connection there when we, there's something, as a listener of music, right, this theory like resonates pretty strongly if you're someone who really gets into music. Any of y'all in the car like to sing while you're driving? Yeah, like I do that all the time, right? And that's like a happy activity. I mean, you could be singing a sad song too, but like usually it's like happy songs you're belting out, right? Yeah, all right? Okay, so that's one view. This is another very common view. And so I just want to note a couple of the difficulties with this view, right? So similar to the first view, the expression theory, right? I mean, of course, sometimes like there are some people that just are not really moved by music at all, right? Especially like certain forms of music, right? I'm kind of I'm glossing over a lot here by not talking about different types of music, but right, there are certainly types of music that don't move me very much, right? I would freely admit that, right? So that can be, it's a difficulty for this view if like a song is not evoking anything in people, right? But I think the more interesting problem with this view actually is that often, I mean, I don't know about often, but certainly sometimes, music that you might think of in one way can evoke sometimes the opposite emotion in a person, right? For example, right, if you just went through a terrible breakup, right, the last thing you want to hear is a happy love song, right? A happy love song is going to make you feel terrible, right? If you've just gone through, it's going to evoke a negative emotion in you. It's going to make you feel something like on the negative side of things. And so there you have again like a mismatch, right? You got a song where the music seems like innately positively valenced, right, or happy, but it's arousing the opposite emotion in the listener. And when you have a mismatch like that, it ends up being a counterexample to this view, okay? Yeah. I'm gonna just pause there and ask if like anybody has any questions about any of that so far. Yes?
Has there been because you said like these four are not the only ones, but has there been studies where one is a majority of how people are affected by music?
Probably not of those, although I'd have to look into that more. I don't think so, yeah. Part of that is because philosophers tend to be an insular group and like don't have the wherewithal to conduct studies like that, but there are some who do. But I'll look into that for you. That's a good question. There have been studies. You just made me think of something that's tangentially related to your question. There have been studies. You know how I said like major keys tend to evoke positive emotions, minor keys tend to evoke sadder emotions. There have been studies about that support the idea that is there's a significant cultural element to that. Right? There are some cultures that have non-Western types of music. You don't always find that, right? So there's definitely some kind of conventional or cultural thing going on there. That said, like I don't think it's purely arbitrary either what's going on. I mean, it would be strange to like hear a funeral dirge at a party, right? Yeah, it just wouldn't really work. Okay. All right, so we talked about two theories that one focuses everything on the performer, the other focuses everything on the listener. And these next two theories are really ones that home in on something about the music itself. Okay. So this is really like a family of theories, but they have certain core elements to them. They're known as resemblance theories. And the idea here is that music expresses emotions by mimicking certain features of, there's actually two things that are talked about here. Like by mimicking certain features of like human behavior or like human like emotional, I guess you could say emotional behavior too. Like when you're the idea here is something like when you're in a, I don't know, when you're like really in the spirit of happiness or something, and you're really feeling good, right? You're supposed to think of your emotions as kind of like doing a dance or something, right? Like doing like this moving quickly and sprightly and like upward, right? And happy music tends to sound like that. I keep going back to like the song I wrote for my younger daughter, but like it's kind of like that, right? It's like it goes like up and out and does a little dance, right? And that kind of like mimics both human behavior and like human like emotional kind of behavior. I know it might sound a little bit metaphorical, but the idea is that there's some like matching or mimicking going on there, all right? Like the music itself, the way that like happy music moves sprightly and upward resembles how a happy person would like walk around, or like how your happy emotions are doing something in your body, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? And whereas like sad music tends to do the opposite, right? Sad music tends to like move downward and sounds a little bit, I don't know, like. Right, that sounds like a lot, like it puts you in a different kind of mood than like, right? And like the idea again, right, is that sad kind of chord like mimics something about your sad feelings too inside you, right? When they're also doing some kind of like slow kind of like thing like that, right? All right, that's kind of the idea. I think it's actually a cool theory and like gets at something right. I tend to, like I said before, I'm not trying to like convince you of anything here, and I haven't myself really developed my own views to a point yet where like I would really go to bat for one of these theories. But I do tend to like the theories that focus in on something about the music and focus a little bit away from the listener or the performer. Right? Anybody have any questions just about that basic idea? Right. So the main way these kinds of theories have been criticized is that this notion of resemblance is vague. And philosophers don't like vagueness. Okay. And it's vague in the following way, right? Sure, like you can point to all kinds of features of chords and the way that music sounds and say that it resembles a happy person or a happy emotion or something like that, right? You could do that. But you could do that with a lot of things too. I mean, if you're really focused in on like the features of your cup of coffee, for example, right? Well, it's dark and it's just sitting there, right? That kind of resembles sadness too, you might think, right? So, and you can do that with lots of other kinds of objects or examples, right? And so the main criticism of this view is that this notion of resemblance at least needs to be like tightened up, or it needs to be construed in a way that captures the stuff about the music and leaves all that other stuff kind of out of it. All right, and then finally there's this persona theory, okay? And this theory basically says in order to capture how music expresses emotions, you, the listener, have to engage in like this imaginative exercise. You have to imagine the music itself as like a fictional agent, right? You have to, and by that, like, you know, think of any kind of fictional character that you like, right? randomly the other day I was watching The Sopranos. Any of y'all ever see The Sopranos? A classic TV show about the New Jersey, New York mafia. Right? Maybe I should use a different example. Anyway, Tony Soprano, right, is a guy who expresses a lot of emotion, purely fictional character. So like strictly speaking, like he doesn't feel anything because like do fictional characters feel anything? I don't know. But the point here is that in order to kind of bring the music to life, you have to imagine it that way, all right? And then like all of a sudden you have this imaginative exercise where like you're just imagining that the music is kind of a psychological agent, and then everything else kind of flows from it, all right? Yeah. Is that clear? Does that kind of make sense? Do any of you, like, does that resonate with anybody? Like, do you think to yourself, oh yeah, I kind of do that when I listen to music? I imagine it's like yeah? Okay. So now you're a fictional character. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So there's two ways in which this view has been, I have 3 bullet points up there, but similar to the resemblance theories, like the notion of the persona itself has been criticized as a little vague, like is the persona supposed to be the performer? Is it supposed to be the composer? Is it supposed to be some other fictional entity entirely? I mean, you have some views out there like where the, and like this gets kind of funky, right? Because the next one there for if you have purely instrumental music and like you're imagining it as a person or something, I mean, then things start to get a little weird, right? And that seems to be what this view might require in some ways, right? But I mean, it is an imaginative exercise, right? But then there's just the fact that, when I asked like how many of you actually feel like you've ever done this when you've listened to music, very few people raised their hand. And that's one way this view has been criticized, is that it seems like many people, when they listen to music and attend to its expressive character, they do that without imagining that it's anything, okay? All right, so that's kind of the family of theories here that I wanted to just grace over with you guys. What happens in philosophy a lot with like every philosophical problem, right? Some puzzle is identified, and that there's lots of writing about it in all these different journals, and no consensus is reached as to like what actually is the answer to the problem. Sometimes you asked about surveys earlier, and what has been done with certain things is like philosophers have like surveyed themselves to see like what the majority of people tend to believe. I don't actually know what the story is with that when it comes to these, but there is documented evidence about like what views tend to be the majority views about different philosophical problems. But I don't know what those are with these. Like I said, I'm a newbie when it comes to this. I really just started reading about the philosophy of music as I've gotten more into like my own music over the last year, and yeah. But I'd be happy to, if any of you are interested in checking any of that out, I'd be happy to refer you to the relevant articles and stuff to read if it's of interest to you. All right, any questions about that? Yeah.
How do we determine who really has the right to say what the intention of music is? Like going back to the first 2 different views.
Yeah.
We can see, we can say that the performer or the composer is almost being oppressive in saying that this is the way that it's supposed to be experienced, and the listener may be kind of convoluting the original intended message that should be sacred to the original piece of music when it's written by the composer.
That is a really good question, and actually gets at a deeper issue in the philosophy of art, right? So, which can apply to music insofar as music is a work of art. So, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, but I can shed some light on it. So there's a big debate in the philosophy of art, a long-standing debate, between the intentionalists and the anti-intentionalists, right? So the intentionalists say that the meaning of a work of art is determined by whoever made it, right? And the anti-intentionalists say, no, like a work of art can take on a meaning of its own depending on how it's made, independently of whatever the artist intended, which is actually a view I've that's kind of the view I've always favored a little bit more because I think like when you're an artist, you set out to do something, right? And you can make mistakes, right? You're not infallible, right? Now, like you might ask, well, who has the right to say it's a mistake? And my answer to that is like everybody does, because like we're all entitled to like use our own judgment and judge something. I think, yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. No, you're fine. Yeah.
So, like these series are based on music, but like there's also a lot of songs that because the lyrics are happy and the music is sad, like it's conveyed very differently. So when these series were like thought of, what were these series like? Was it based off like the music and the chords, or was it also based off of like the lyrics that are used for like an artist?
So interestingly, like the literature on these theories focuses mostly on purely instrumental music. I'm taking some liberties and like applying them to. I mean, there's nothing that prevents them from being applied to all kinds of music, but mostly it was purely instrumental music. And your question is a good one. I mean, I'm trying to think of songs that I know that where the lyrics, where there's this mismatch between the lyrics and the music. That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah. I don't know. What would you say about it? Like, is a happy lyrics but sad music song a happy song or not?
I mean,
Like there's which one with by Black Eyed Peas? Is it Black Eyed Peas? No, there's.
which one? Like, how does it go? I don't know it.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
She said, Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, and there's a song by Norah Jones, I can't remember, Run Away With Me.
Oh,
Happy
yeah.
song, but then the tone of the music is sad,
Yeah.
or seems to be sad, but it's supposed to be a happy song.
I mean, that's an example like that, and like songs like that can evoke very different feelings in different listeners. Yeah.
Intentional
It sounds happy, but it's actually not.
Especially if it was like a not love song.
Yeah. So, Hey Ya by Outkast sounds very happy, but it's actually an anti-love song.
I didn't know that. Is that right? Yeah. I like Outkast. Yeah. Sometimes when you can't understand the lyrics to a song, right? It's better, I think. And then once you actually home in on the lyrics, that stuff can implode. I'll have to think more about your question. I don't really have a good answer to it, but it's a really good question. Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
So since you've written the songs about your daughters and now that they're older, does the songs from when you originally wrote them evoke a different emotion now that they're older?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Sophia's does, like, because she's like so much older now than an infant, right? So like, and she's like just a completely different person now. So yes, different. I would struggle to say exactly how. Helena's, the first song I played, is like, she's still exactly the same to me. Yeah. All right. Well, so we're like 125, and close this out with like one more song. Sound good? Okay. All right. All right. Well, I played all these songs about my kids. This is kind of another one that was inspired by my children. So another not to get into things too dark and heavy, but like I went through a divorce. I wrote a lot of songs about that, but they're not safe for work, so I'm not going to play them. And having kids, I felt a lot of emotions about that, and there's a lot of that I'm channeling through this next song. And this is just, I was vacationing with my girls in the summer a couple summers ago, and thinking about like how you like when your kids get older because like parenting gets easier, right? But like you also miss when they're a certain age, and you kind of wish you can keep them that age forever, and that's kind of what this song is about. It's called Steal the Time. By the way, if you like my music, you can, just to give a quick plug for myself, you can listen to it. Wherever you stream your music, you can find it. I get like 0.4 of a cent every time you stream it on Spotify, so like, like 4 million streams each should do it in this room. Like I could get, at least give me some like passive income. Thank you. But yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. Just stream myself. Pack your things, let's fly. We'll be dancing and vibing in the sky. Save me a memory and give me that spot, lost in the reverie, present as I'll ever be. Here comes another, this time is like no other, savoring the hours in a perfect summer. I get to live it, every day I'm in it, now I'm only wondering if there's some way. Is there some way? Shore, I get some, but I want more. To breathe the ocean breeze, come and go as I please. Wait for me over there, give me just a little bit of everything and everywhere. If you find I fall behind, I promise that I'll steal the time and that'll leave you wondering if there's some way. There's some way. Some way, yeah, that's some way, there's some way, along the flow of time, as I cling to you for life. Thank you. All right, well, that's all I got. Thank you all so much for listening and for coming out, and thanks, John, for putting together such a great series. I wanted to just actually say that the first time I spoke in this series was like 2013, and I did it again in 2019, and I did it again now. So I'll try to improve my intervals there. But this is a great series, and John Professor Barr does such a good job promoting the intellectual culture of the college. And so thank you guys for being here. Thank you.